Sonic Spinball is a very interesting approach to a Sonic spin-off game. At the time, SEGA wanted to make a new Sonic game to keep players occupied until Sonic 3 eventually came out. This game is kinda like what Team Sonic Racing was before Sonic Frontiers came out. This game may look like a poorly made cash grab, but it honestly doesn't feel like one. The game basically takes the idea of Sonic's spin move and turns it on his head in a way that makes sense and feels unique. Whether you enjoy it or not, you can definitely tell a lot of effort went into making this game at least a decent spin-off. It's no Sonic Rush, but hey, I enjoyed most of it. But without further ado, here's the review. The premise of Sonic Spinball is simple. Eggman made a fortress in a volcano. You must navigate pinball puzzles and collect Chaos Emeralds, which are all blue for some reason, to blow up the base. I think this is a really great idea for a Sonic game, and I gotta say, I kinda like how the spin-off plays. You essentially play this game as expected. Use flippers to launch Sonic where you need him to go, and you have limited movement control as well. When I first played, I thought the physics felt too slow, but this actually isn't bad. This actually makes some split-second responses possible. As if the gravity is too fast, dying feels stupid. Each stage has a certain number of Chaos Emeralds, and you need to collect them all to progress. Basically, each stage has a different layout and different gimmicks to get the emeralds. I really like this because it makes each stage feel similar, but ultimately have completely different solutions. This ensures the game is never stale. The music is actually kinda good. I think the music does get less memorable as you go, but it's all pretty good, though I do wish the tracks were longer. This track is probably the most well-known, but Toxic Caves is definitely the best. Okay, on to my ruthless nitpicks. Man, this game has issues! My biggest gripe with this game is that if you lose all your lives, you start from the beginning of the game. Now, usually this wouldn't be a problem, but this game can, not always, but sometimes make death feel like a matter of luck, and I hate it. You essentially need to memorize the entire stage for bits, because one slip up, and no matter how far you are, you're back at the start. I won't hold this next thing against the game, because this was my fault, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I spent about an hour and a half on the machine zone, all because I didn't understand how to use the flipper grab mechanic. Yay, skill issue, yeah I know. Anyway, the live system is unfortunate, and I think this game could have been easily fixed if it had a stage select, like Mega Man. As unique as the puzzle elements are, there are so many mechanics, and targets, and mechanisms, and meaningless score boosters mixed in with things you need to do to get emeralds. This can sometimes be frustrating and confusing. In fact, sometimes just figuring out how to get an emerald can take 10 minutes of time. The bosses are fun to beat up, as you're always in Spinball form, but that makes them feel easy. The bosses don't really actively try to kill you, so you just kinda attack them and defeat them. That's it. Enemies in the levels have the same problems, now that I think about it. My final issue is that pinball at heart is more of a game of chance than skill, and this game has the same problem. So emeralds require quite precise movement that is really hard to learn. Honestly, all of these issues would partially go away if the game had a stage select, as I mentioned earlier. So, is this game good? I would say it was fairly enjoyable. Will I come back to it? Actually, probably yes. It was definitely fun enough. Maybe sometime I'll pick it up again. 7 out of 10. But what about the Game Gear version? I played through the Game Gear version of this game basically expecting a completely different experience, like Sonic 1 and 2. But I was pretty surprised at how similar they are, honestly. Honestly, if you've played the Genesis version, you've pretty much played both of them. The only real difference between them is that the Game Gear version has really terrible physics, as well as bad graphics and a worse frame rate. But that's kind of expected. The level layouts are practically the same, they only have a few minor differences. Really, if you know how to play the Genesis version of the game, you'll know how to play the Game Gear version. In fact, the only real difference between the two versions of the games are the bonus stages, which is 100% understandable because the Genesis version of the game has pretty much 3D bonus stages, while the Game Gear has really bad memory and consequently really bad 2D bonus stages. But despite the two games being very similar, I highly, and I mean highly, recommend you play the Mega Drive or Genesis version, depending on your region. Because the Game Gear version / Master System version, depending on your region, well, no, that's actually a lie, it depends on the console. But anyway, I highly recommend you play the Mega Drive version of the game. Highly! The Game Gear version of the game is painful to play. Painful. Very, very painful. In, like, every single conceivable way, okay? I don't care how similar the games are. One is bad, one is decent, okay? So you know what? Game Gear gets, like, I don't know, 4 out of 10, okay? 4 out of 10. Don't play it. You don't want to, okay? I promise you. In fact, this is a perfect time to mention something I've been wanting to mention for a while. To all you people in the comments who say that the Master System version of the game is better, I 100% understand. As an owner of both an Xbox One and a Nintendo Switch, which are both pretty underpowered hardware at this point, I am a firm believer that companies should backport their games. Like, for example, Jedi Survivor on the Xbox Series X. I think it's a good idea how they're adjusting the game to be playable on Xbox One. That's a great idea. I am very happy they're doing that. So naturally, I think it is very thoughtful of SEGA to make all these games for the Game Gear and Master System, and backport newer games back to the Master System and Game Gear. Because the people on those consoles will be missing out on the newer titles. And SEGA knows that. So they remake the game for the past consoles. And I think that is a very thoughtful idea coming from SEGA's side. However, I still am not going to go out of my way to say that the Master System and Game Gear versions of these games are better. Because they're not. Like, they're literally not. So to all you people who grew up with the Master System, I 100% understand why you think those games are better. I just firmly disagree with you, and that's okay. I still think that Sonic Generations and Sonic Adventure 2 are better than Sonic Superstars and Sonic Frontiers, but that's really only because those were like the first Sonic games I played. So, yeah, it's understandable. But anyway, thank you all for watching this video. This video especially took a very long time to make. The next game is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Machine, and I started playing that today, and, yeah, I got to the second stage, and I was like, how am I ever gonna beat this? But as long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making these videos. I'll do anything, even if it means beating Dr. Robotnik's Mean Machine. Please, subscribe.